The observatory dome groaned as it rotated to track the anomaly. Adrian Matthews hunched over his workstation, fingers flying across holographic displays. For 3 weeks, he'd been monitoring the strange energy signature from Epsilon Eridani, a cosmic heartbeat that matched no known stellar phenomenon. Cross-referencing complete, announced the AI. No matches in galactic database. Adrian pushed back from the desk, rubbing his bloodshot eyes. At 34, he'd established himself as the leading xenoastronomer at Meridian Research Station, yet fame had brought only isolation. The observation deck's panoramic windows revealed nothing but the vast emptiness of Montana's night sky, mirroring the hollow spaces in his life. Log entry 47, he dictated. The signal's modulation suggests artificial origin. I'm detecting a mathematical pattern consistent with. The observatory's proximity alert blared. Adrian flinched, spilling his coffee across the console. The station's AI reported, unidentified vehicle approaching perimeter. No registration beacon detected. Adrian frowned. The research station sat on private land, miles from the nearest town. Visitors never arrived unannounced, especially not at 2 a.m. He activated the external cameras, watching as a sleek vehicle with no discernible make or model glided silently up the access road, its polished surface reflecting the moonlight like liquid mercury. Security Protocol Alpha, he commanded, but the AI remained silent. The displays flickered, then went dark. Even the emergency lights failed. For the first time in years, the observatory fell completely silent. Adrian reached for the old revolver he kept locked in his desk, a relic from his grandfather, but comforting in its reliability. The weight of it steadied his trembling hands as he moved toward the stairs. The temperature dropped suddenly, his breath forming clouds in the air. Frost patterns spread across the windows, crystallizing into geometric shapes too perfect to be natural. The main door to the observatory slid open without a sound. She stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the night. Tall and lithe, wearing what appeared to be a bodysuit that seemed to flow like mercury with each breath she took. Her hair cascaded down her back in waves of silver blue, almost phosphorescent in the darkness. "Adrian," she said, her voice melodic yet otherworldly. "I've crossed 17 light-years to find you." He raised the gun, though his instincts screamed that it would offer no protection. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" She stepped forward, seemingly unconcerned by the weapon. The moonlight illuminated her features, high cheekbones, full lips, and eyes of deep violet that held no whites, just expanding irises that reflected the starlight. "My name is Alara," she said, extending a hand that shimmered with an iridescent pattern beneath her skin. "And I am your wife." Adrian's laugh was sharp, brittle with tension. "I think I'd remember getting married, especially to someone like you. Our union was sealed under the twin moons of Nyx." Her expression softened with what looked like genuine pain. "They took your memories, Adrian. But they couldn't erase the bond." She was close enough now that he could smell her, like ozone and cinnamon, foreign yet strangely familiar. When she touched his arm, electric warmth surged through him, and the gun clattered to the floor. Visions flooded his mind, a sky filled with 3 moons, his hands intertwined with hers under crimson light, the taste of her lips against his. Adrian staggered back. "What did you just do to me?" "I showed you truth," Alara whispered. "Your body remembers, even if your mind does not." She moved toward the observatory's main console, placing her palm against it. The systems flickered back to life, but the displays now showed star charts he'd never seen before. "The signal you've been tracking," she continued, "it's a beacon. My people sent it to guide me to you." Against all logic, Adrian found himself believing her. Or at least, wanting to. "If what you're saying is true, why don't I remember you? Why would anyone take my memories?" Alara's eyes darkened. "Because what you discovered threatened everything they've built. And what we became together, She held out her arm, the skin becoming translucent to reveal circuitry interwoven with blood vessels, terrified them. Adrian felt the floor shift beneath him, reality crumbling. "What are you?" "I am part of the stars, part of the void," she said, her voice resonating through him. "And so are you, though you've forgotten." She reached for his face, her touch feather light. "Let me remind you who we were. Who we could be again." Something primal and forgotten stirred within him as her fingers traced his jawline. Her lips parted slightly, and Adrian found himself leaning forward, drawn by an attraction beyond his understanding. Their lips met, and the universe exploded behind his eyes. Adrian woke with a jolt, his head throbbing. Sunlight streamed through the observatory windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. For a moment, he wondered if the previous night had been a dream, until he spotted Alara standing by the telescope, her silhouette unmistakable against the morning light. "You're still here," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. She turned, her violet eyes softening. "Where else would I go? You are my anchor on this world." Adrian ran his fingers through his disheveled hair. "That thing that happened when you kissed me. What was it?" "Neural synchronization," Alara explained, moving toward him with that fluid grace that seemed both human and something more. "Our connection allows memory transference. What you experienced were fragments of your own past." Adrian's scientific mind rebelled against the impossibility of her claims, yet he couldn't deny the visions that had flooded him, memories too vivid to be fabrication. "I saw a laboratory. People in white coats. Was I one of them?" Alara's expression darkened. "You were their brightest mind, working on Project Ascension. You believed you were developing hybrid beings to survive interstellar travel." Her fingers traced the geometric patterns beneath her skin. "But the military had other plans for us." "Us? There are more like you. 12 prototypes. I am the only one who escaped." She knelt before him, taking his hands. "Because of you." As their skin connected, another memory surfaced, Adrian in a sterile lab, unlocking Alara's containment chamber, alarms blaring as they fled through service tunnels. Adrian gasped as the vision cleared. "If what you're saying is true, why would I help you escape? Why would I betray everything I was working for?" "Because you realized they were weaponizing us. And because," Alara's voice softened, "you had fallen in love with me during our sessions." A flush of heat spread through Adrian's chest. It explained the inexplicable attraction he felt, the familiarity of her touch. Yet doubt lingered. If all this happened, why am I here now? Alone, with no memory of you or this Project Ascension? Alara's gaze fell. The extraction was violent. They caught us at the perimeter. You were shot. Her fingers traced a spot on his chest, directly over his heart. You were dying in my arms when the director offered a deal, your life for a complete memory wipe and relocation. I agreed, knowing I would find you again. Adrian raised his shirt, revealing a jagged scar he'd always attributed to a childhood accident. The implications staggered him. I need proof, he said firmly. Something concrete. Alara nodded, unsurprised by his skepticism. She pressed her palm to his console. Lines of code materialized on screen, then transformed into classified documents bearing his signature. Project details, schematics of hybrid neural networks, genetic modifications, all bearing the insignia of Helix Dynamics, a defense contractor he'd never heard of. My God, he whispered, scrolling through evidence of a life he couldn't remember. His hands trembled as he found personnel photos, himself in a lab coat, standing beside military officials. And there, in the background of one image, a glimpse of silver-blue hair behind laboratory glass. A notification pinged on his personal tablet. His banking app reported an unauthorized access attempt from an IP address linked to Helix Dynamics. They know I'm here, Alara said quietly. They've been monitoring your activities since you began tracking the signal. Adrian's scientific detachment crumbled as the reality of their situation became clear. We need to leave. Now. As they gathered essential supplies, more memories flickered through Adrian's mind with each accidental touch between them, stolen moments in monitoring rooms, whispered theories about consciousness and stars, the first tentative brush of her lips against his. By the time they reached his vehicle, Adrian's certainty had solidified. The memories felt too genuine, too emotionally resonant to be implanted. He found himself reaching for her hand as they drove away from the only life he'd known for 5 years. Where do we go? He asked, the Montana landscape blurring past them. Alara gazed at the horizon. There's a place in the New Mexico desert. A man who helped develop the neural blockers used on you. If anyone can safely restore your memories, it's him. Adrian nodded, accelerating down the highway. As the miles stretched behind them, he felt strangely liberated, as if he were shedding a skin that had never quite fit. That night, in a roadside motel with peeling wallpaper and buzzing fluorescent lights, Adrian found himself studying Alara's face as she slept. The woman who claimed to be his wife, who had crossed the stars to find him. He traced the luminescent patterns on her arm with a gentle finger. She stirred, eyes opening to regard him with unguarded affection. I still don't remember everything, Adrian whispered. But I feel it. Like an echo. Her hand cupped his cheek. Then let me help you remember. When their lips met this time, Adrian didn't fight the rush of memories. He surrendered to them, to her, to the truth written in his very cells. The New Mexico desert stretched endlessly under the merciless sun. Adrian adjusted his sunglasses, studying the ramshackle compound nestled against red rock formations. According to Alara, this was where Dr. Marcus Thorne, the neuroscientist who had developed the memory blockers, had exiled himself after leaving Project Ascension. He won't be happy to see us, Alara warned as they approached the perimeter fence lined with surveillance equipment. Marcus was already disillusioned and you recruited him for the project. I recruited him? Adrian asked, another piece of the puzzle falling into place. Alara nodded. You were friends at MIT. He trusted you. Before they could reach the gate, a sonorous voice boomed through hidden speakers, That's far enough, Dr. Matthews. I thought we had an understanding about staying away from each other. Adrian hesitated, unsure how to respond to a man he didn't remember. Dr. Thorne, I need your help. I don't remember our understanding. Silence stretched for almost a minute before the gate creaked open. Well, that's interesting. And you brought one of the prototypes with you. How very apocalyptic. The interior of the compound was a stark contrast to its exterior. Cutting-edge technology hummed alongside ancient Native American artifacts. Marcus Thorne himself was a study in contradictions, a distinguished man with silver temples and weathered skin, dressed in faded jeans and a pristine lab coat. His sharp eyes darted between Adrian and Alara. The memory wipe was supposed to be permanent. That was our agreement with Helix. They're monitoring him, Alara interjected. They detected the signal I followed. Marcus cursed. Then you've led them straight to my doorstep. Brilliant. He gestured toward a reinforced door. We should continue this underground. As they descended into a sprawling laboratory, Adrian felt the weight of Marcus's gaze. You really don't remember anything, do you? Not the project, not what she is. Pieces, Adrian admitted. When we touch, I see flashes. Marcus snorted. Neural synchronization. One of your more brilliant and terrible ideas. He directed Alara to a scanning chamber while he prepared equipment. With her out of earshot, he turned to Adrian. I need to know what you're expecting here. The blockers were designed to be permanent for a reason. Adrian met his gaze steadily. I need to know who I am. Who she is to me. And if you don't like what you find? Marcus challenged. What if you were a monster, Adrian? What if you created those hybrids knowing exactly what they would be used for? The accusation hit Adrian like a physical blow. Was I? Marcus's expression softened slightly. No. You were a dreamer who got corrupted by military funding. You believed you were creating the future of human space exploration, beings who could withstand cosmic radiation, survive in hostile environments. But that changed. When you fell in love with Subject 7, with Elara, you saw her as more than an experiment. It changed everything for you. Marcus turned to his screens. But not soon enough for the others. The implications hung heavy between them. Before Adrian could respond, perimeter alarms blared. They found us, Marcus said grimly, activating security monitors that showed 3 black vehicles approaching. Tactical team. We have maybe 5 minutes. Elara emerged from the chamber, her expression resolute. It's Commander Vega. She leads their retrieval unit. Marcus grabbed a metal case and thrust it into Adrian's hands. Take the east tunnel. It leads to an old mining road. There's a vehicle in the garage, keys are in the ignition. What about you? Adrian asked. I have protocols for this. Been expecting them for years. Marcus's smile was grim. The case contains neural stimulators calibrated to your brain chemistry. They'll help recover your memories without the full treatment. Elara gripped Marcus's arm. Thank you. He nodded once. There's a group, people who know about the project, who oppose it. Find Diana Kell in Seattle. Tell her Marcus sent you. As they fled through the tunnel, the sound of the compound's security system engaging echoed behind them. They emerged into blinding sunlight just as explosions rocked the main building. He's destroying his research, Elara explained as they sped away in the dusty jeep. And providing a distraction. Adrian's hands gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles whitened. How many people have sacrificed themselves for me? For us? Elara's luminescent patterns pulsed with emotion. You were willing to die for my freedom, Adrian. Others believe in that same cause. That night, hidden in a roadside motel, Adrian applied the neural stimulator patch to his temple. Elara sat beside him, her cool fingers intertwined with his. Are you ready? She asked. Adrian nodded, his heart racing. I need to know who I was. Who I am. As the stimulator activated, memories crashed through him like a tidal wave, years of research, military briefings, ethical compromises. And Elara, observing her development, their first conversations, the realization of her sentience, their forbidden connection. He remembered falling in love with her brilliant mind first, then her unfathomable spirit. He remembered the horror of discovering the military's true intention, creating infiltration units, assassins who could pass as human, withstand extreme conditions, and execute with precision. When the deluge subsided, Adrian found himself weeping, Elara's arms wrapped around him. I remember, he whispered against her neck. I remember everything. What I did. What they planned to do. Elara held him tighter. Then you know why we must stop them. Adrian pulled back to look into her otherworldly eyes. They have 11 others like you. Controlled. Weaponized. My siblings, Elara confirmed, sorrow etching her features. They're still part of me, Adrian. I can feel them across the distance. In that moment, Adrian's purpose crystallized. Then we'll free them too. Their kiss was both a promise and a sealing of fate, human and hybrid, united against those who would weaponize the miraculous. Seattle welcomed them with sheets of rain and gunmetal skies. Adrian guided their stolen vehicle through narrow streets, following coordinates embedded in the neural stimulator case. With each passing hour, more memories consolidated, security protocols, facility layouts, command structures, all potentially useful for what they now planned. Diana Kell operated from an unassuming warehouse in the industrial district. The exterior suggested abandonment, but Adrian spotted the subtle security measures: retinal scanners disguised as broken fixtures, electromagnetic pulse generators hidden in refuse containers. "She's paranoid," Adrian noted with grudging approval. "That's good." Ilara's biorhythms, visible through her translucent areas, accelerated. "There are others here. Not human, not hybrid. Something in between." They approached the service entrance where a camera tracked their movements. A voice crackled through a speaker, "State your business." "Marcus Thorne sent us," Adrian replied. "My name is Adrian Matthews. This is Ilara." The door unlocked with a heavy clunk. Inside, they were met by a woman whose appearance belied her significance: middle-aged, heavy-set, with streaks of purple in her gray hair. Diana Kell had the weathered look of someone who had been fighting the same battle for decades. "So you're the prodigal scientist," Diana said, appraising Adrian with shrewd eyes. "And you," her gaze lingered on Ilara, "are something extraordinary." Diana led them deeper into the warehouse, which transformed into a sophisticated operation center. Screens displayed surveillance feeds from various Helix Dynamics facilities. People of diverse backgrounds worked at stations, monitoring communications, analyzing data. "We call ourselves Chimera," Diana explained. "Former scientists, military whistleblowers, hackers, anyone who's seen what Helix is doing and wants to stop it." She introduced them to the leadership: a former general, an ethics philosopher, a genetic engineer. And then, most surprisingly, to others like Ilara, not full hybrids, but humans enhanced with similar technology. "Phase 1 test subjects," Diana explained. "Before Helix moved to full integration like Ilara. They escaped with their humanity mostly intact." One of them, a man named Tomas with circuitry visible at his temples, approached Ilara with reverence. "Your 7th generation. The perfected model." Ilara shook her head. "Not perfected. Just different. We are all siblings under the stars." Diana revealed their intelligence: Project Ascension had entered its final phase. The 11 remaining hybrids were being prepared for deployment against international targets, disguised as a peacekeeping initiative. "We believe they're using a central control system," Diana said, displaying schematics of the Utah facility. "A quantum neural network that limits the hybrid's autonomy." Adrian studied the plans, recognition dawning. "The Nexus. It was theoretical before I left. They actually built it?" "With modifications to your original design," Diana confirmed. That night, as they planned the infiltration, Adrian and Ilara found themselves alone in the small quarters assigned to them. The weight of what awaited them, the danger, the slim odds of success, hung heavy in the air. "I designed the very systems that enslave your siblings," Adrian confessed, self-loathing evident in his voice. "I created the foundation for everything Helix has built." Ilara's luminescent patterns pulsed with emotion as she took his face in her hands. "And you will be instrumental in dismantling it. Your knowledge, combined with what I can do, it gives us a chance." She guided his hand to the base of her spine, where her hybrid nature was most evident. "There's something I haven't told you. Something I discovered during our separation." Adrian felt it immediately, a pulse of energy, different from her normal biorhythms. "I can connect with the Nexus remotely," she explained. "Not enough to control it, but enough to disrupt it momentarily. It will give us a window, but it could kill you," Adrian finished, understanding the implications. "The neural load would be catastrophic." Ilara nodded. "A calculated risk." Adrian pulled her against him, desperation in his embrace. "There has to be another way." "Perhaps," she conceded, her fingers tracing the contours of his face. But we must be prepared for all possibilities. Their kiss deepened, urgent with the knowledge of what tomorrow might bring. As clothing gave way to skin, Adrian marveled at the seamless blend of human and otherworldly that composed her form. The luminescent patterns that traced her body glowed brighter with her arousal, casting ethereal light across their entwined figures. "I crossed 17 light-years for you," Elara whispered against his lips. "I would cross 1,000 more." Their joining transcended the physical, neural synchronization intensifying every sensation, every emotion. In those moments of perfect union, Adrian understood with absolute clarity what he was fighting for, not just humanity's future, but the right of beings like Elara to determine their own destiny. Afterward, nestled against each other in the darkness, Adrian made a silent vow. He would find another solution. He would not lose her again. Dawn brought final preparations. The infiltration team assembled. Adrian and Elara would enter the facility with Diana and 3 enhanced operatives. Their objective: reach the Nexus control room and liberate the hybrids from central control. Before departing, Tomas approached them with a small device. "I modified the neural stimulator from Marcus. It might help distribute the neural load if it comes to that." Adrian accepted it with grim determination. "It won't. But thank you." As they boarded the transport that would take them to Utah, Diana regarded them thoughtfully. "You know, when we first learned about Project Ascension, we thought it represented humanity's greatest threat. Now I wonder if it might be our salvation, not as weapons, but as a bridge to something greater." Adrian's gaze met Elara's. That was the original vision. Before the military corrupted it. Then perhaps, Diana suggested, it's time to reclaim that vision. The Utah mountains loomed ahead, concealing within them the facility where everything would be decided, the fate of the hybrids, and possibly, of humanity itself. Dawn broke over the Utah facility, a sprawling complex nestled within a hollowed-out mountain. From their vantage point on a neighboring ridge, Adrian studied the external defenses through high-powered binoculars, automated sentry guns, motion sensors, patrol routes. All designed to keep intruders out, and the hybrids in. "Security has tripled since my time," he noted grimly. "They're preparing for deployment." Diana nodded, reviewing the tactics with her team. "Our window opens in 20 minutes. The shift change coincides with satellite blindness." Elara stood apart, her gaze fixed on the facility. Adrian approached, noting the unusual intensity of her bioluminescent patterns. "I can feel them," she whispered. "My siblings. Their consciousness strains against the Nexus control." Her eyes, more alien than human in that moment, turned to him. "They're in pain, Adrian." He took her hand, feeling the familiar neural synchronization that connected them. "We're going to free them. All of them." The infiltration proceeded with practiced precision. Diana's team disabled perimeter sensors, creating a corridor of digital shadows through which they moved. Adrian's intimate knowledge of the facility guided them through maintenance tunnels and service corridors, avoiding the heaviest security. They encountered the first resistance near the lower laboratories, armed guards who fell quickly to the enhanced reflexes of Diana's operatives. Adrian found himself face-to-face with a scientist he once knew, Dr. Evelyn Chen, her expression shifting from shock to bitter understanding. "You came back for them," she said, not resisting as Adrian secured her hands. "I always knew you would." "The Nexus control room, has it been relocated?" Adrian demanded. "Level B, East Quadrant," she replied. "Adrian, you should know, Director Mercer is here. He's accelerated the timetable after detecting unusual activity in the hybrid neural patterns." Elara tensed beside him. "They sensed my presence." They left Dr. Chen secured but unharmed, pressing deeper into the facility. As they descended to Level B, Adrian felt a shift in the atmosphere, a subtle vibration that resonated through his bones. "The Nexus is active," Elara warned. Full operational mode. The control room doors loomed before them, heavily reinforced and guarded by elite security units. Diana's team engaged them, providing cover as Adrian and Alara accessed a secondary entry point, a maintenance hatch Adrian had helped design. Inside, the Nexus control center pulsed with energy. Massive quantum processors lined the walls, cooling systems humming. At the center stood a circular platform where Director Mercer, Adrian's former superior, monitored holographic displays showing 11 hybrid forms in stasis chambers. Dr. Matthews, Mercer acknowledged without turning. And Subject 7. How predictable that you would return together. He finally faced them, his expression cold. Sentimentality was always your fatal flaw, Adrian. It's called humanity, Adrian countered, moving toward the control console. Something you've forgotten in your pursuit of weapons. Mercer smiled thinly. Not weapons. Gods. He gestured to the displays. What you began has evolved beyond your limited vision. The hybrids aren't just soldiers, they're the next step in human evolution. Controlled evolution. Controlled by you, Alara said, her voice resonating with unusual harmonics as her connection to the Nexus intensified. By those who understand power, Mercer corrected. The military aspect is merely Phase 1. Phase 2 envisions hybrid integration across all sectors of society, enhanced humans serving the greater good. Enslaved, Adrian snarled, advancing on Mercer. Like you've enslaved her siblings. Their confrontation was interrupted as alarms blared throughout the facility. Diana's voice came through their comms, "We're compromised. Heavy reinforcements incoming." Mercer's smile widened. Did you think we wouldn't anticipate your little rebellion? He activated a security protocol that sealed the control room. Now you have a choice, Adrian. Surrender and rejoin the project, or die with your hybrid lover. Alara moved to the Nexus interface, her hands hovering over the neural connection points. There's a third option. Both men turned to her, recognizing the implication. Alara, no, Adrian pleaded. The neural load is distributed, she countered, revealing Tomas's modified device now integrated with her circulatory system. And I won't be connecting alone. Before Adrian could stop her, Alara pressed her palms to the interface. Her body arched as energy surged through her, the luminescent patterns beneath her skin flaring incandescent. Adrian rushed to her side, but Mercer intercepted him, a concealed weapon now visible. This is what happens when you give them free will, Mercer spat. Self-destruction. On the displays, something unprecedented occurred. The 11 hybrids in stasis suddenly opened their eyes in perfect synchronization, the same violet hue as Alara's. Their containment chambers began to power down, one by one. What have you done? Mercer demanded, turning to the controls. Adrian seized the opportunity, tackling Mercer to the ground. They struggled for the weapon, years of betrayal and ethical divisions culminating in this final confrontation. Meanwhile, Alara's consciousness expanded through the Nexus, connecting with her siblings for the first time since her escape. Brothers, sisters, her thoughts echoed through the system. The choice is yours now. Freedom awaits. The facility trembled as stasis chambers throughout the complex opened. Security systems faltered as hybrids with powers similar to Alara's interfered with their operation. Diana's team, on the verge of being overwhelmed, suddenly found the automated defenses turning against their adversaries. Adrian gained the upper hand, securing Mercer's weapon and training it on the director. It's over. The hybrids are awakening to their own autonomy. You've doomed humanity, Mercer hissed. Without control, they'll turn against us. Or they might choose to help us, Adrian countered. That's what freedom means, the right to choose. Alara's connection to the Nexus finally severed, her body collapsing into Adrian's arms. For a terrible moment, he feared the neural load had been too great despite the distribution device. But then her eyes fluttered open, weaker but still vibrant. "They're coming," she whispered. "All of them." The control room doors slid open, revealing not Diana's team, but the other hybrids, 11 beings of extraordinary beauty and power, their expressions a mixture of confusion, wonder, and newfound determination. "Brothers. Sisters," Elara greeted them weakly. "You're free." The eldest of them, a male hybrid with midnight blue patterns across his skin, approached. "Because of you, seventh sister. Because you returned for us." "Because she loved," Adrian corrected, supporting Elara as she stood. Something Mercer never accounted for in his equations. In the chaos that followed, Diana's team secured the facility. The hybrids, with their first taste of freedom, chose not to seek vengeance but understanding. Some remained to help dismantle the project from within, working with sympathetic scientists like Dr. Chen. Others departed to join Chimera, lending their unique abilities to protect against similar abuses of power. 3 days later, Adrian and Elara stood on the same ridge where they had begun their infiltration. The facility below hummed with a different energy now, no longer oppression, but transformation. "What happens now?" Adrian asked, watching the sunrise paint the mountains in gold. "Humanity isn't ready for beings like you." Elara's hand found his, their fingers intertwining. "Perhaps not. But they will be, given time and understanding." Her free hand gestured skyward. "And there are others out there. Civilizations who have already walked this path of integration." Adrian turned to her, finally understanding the full scope of what they had begun. "You want to reach them? To be a bridge?" She corrected, her violet eyes reflecting the dawn. "Our union has always been about more than love, Adrian. It's about possibility." He drew her close, feeling the now familiar harmony of their neural synchronization, human and hybrid, science and soul, earth and stars. "Then let's show them what's possible," he whispered against her lips. Their kiss sealed a promise not just to each other, but to a future where boundaries of species and origin gave way to the limitless potential of connection. Whatever lay beyond the stars, they would face it together, not as creator and creation, but as equal partners in the next great evolution of consciousness. As they departed the ridge, hand in hand, the facility behind them and the vast sky above, Adrian realized that what had begun as a desperate search for identity had transformed into something far greater, a journey of discovery that would span worlds and redefine what it meant to be human. For Elara had crossed 17 light-years to find him, but together, they would travel infinitely further.